Welcome to Feminist Frequency Radio. This is the show that asks you to be critical of the media you love. I'm Kat Spada, and this is your Fortnightly FREQout mini episode where I'll run through some brief reviews and industry news. Later on, I've got some Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to talk about. But first, how are y'all doing? At the time of this recording, we've just made the announcement about Feminist Frequency, the organization, ceasing operations, and it's been a big couple of days. Last week, you got to hear a conversation I'd recorded with Anita and Jay before the announcement was public, but by now I've seen countless thoughtful and heartfelt responses from people who've supported and enjoyed her work over the years, and it's made me very emotional. Of course, it's also brought up plenty of trolls regurgitating some vintage internet vitriol, and man, I am just, once again, so proud of my friend for taking this next step with her work and life, and for talking openly about the burnout and exhaustion that led to this decision. In fact, if you missed it, Anita spoke with Nicole Carpenter at Polygon last week, and that article is linked in the show notes for a little bit more from her before she takes her well-deserved and much-needed time off. But if you are a Feminist Frequency listener or supporter and you've been out there on the internet seeing some of the stuff I have, just make sure to take care of yourself. Take a beat away from the internet if need be. But you know, when I need to take a minute away from the internet, I just keep looking at screens. I just watch more stuff. So, what y'all been watching? I'll start with something you've surely not heard before, which is some lukewarm disappointment with the latest Marvel output. I guess I watched Secret Invasion, but did I? Did any of us? I guess this is nothing new for non-tentpole installments of the MCU, but it's just pretty disappointing when it feels like it starts and ends in roughly the same place. So Nick Fury's been on a space station, but then he left the space station, and now he's back on the space station. Most people didn't know Skrulls were on Earth, and now they still don't have a homeland, but something governmental corruption and xenophobia. I know this is very incisive media analysis right now, but it was just pretty hard to keep up any excitement at all for Nick Fury's "but my intentions were good" sledgehammering of a race of refugees. That's what happened, right? That's what the season was about. Then, the muddy visual effects on this final Super Skrull battle were just the final meh of the season. It looked so goofy, and also there's something about Marvel where, the stakes are both the highest they've ever been and consequently the lowest they've ever been. So 2 Skrulls have the power of literally every superhero, including Captain Marvel, the most powerful being in the universe or something. Okay, then who cares? Who's going to win then? It clearly cannot matter. I think obviously this has been the problem ever since Endgame, where they have to say, hey, you've spent the last 10 years worrying about these Infinity Stones and now they're meaningless. It just felt unfortunate and like a little bit of a waste of time. But I absolutely loved Olivia Colman whenever she was on screen. I think that's an evergreen statement, but she was a delight. I mean, every episode was where's Olivia Colman? I'm wondering what she's up to. And I'm still majorly excited for the Marvels, so by the time we're reunited with Ms. Kamala Khan, maybe all of this will have been swept under the rug. Speaking of Olivia Colman, I finally watched season 2 of The Bear in 1.5 wrapped sittings. It reminded me of Reservation Dogs and how its first season introduced you to the crew and their world, but the second season gave each character more breathing room to show us their interior worlds. With The Bear, it was like we could jump into the second season having been immersed in the restaurant back-of-house chaos, and now we could spend some time following micro-journeys as these people learn more about what it takes to work at a top-of-the-line restaurant. A lot of people have been talking about the Christmas episode, Fishes, in which Jamie Lee Curtis brings all the matriarchal family trauma you can stand, but I really, really found the subsequent episode, Forks, a brilliant portrait of purpose in every sense of the word. Eben Moss Bacharach goes from being a thorn in the side to a hero in this episode, And his scene with Olivia Colman made me cry. I was like, is this because I just love her so much? Is this because of the writing of this episode? I actually think a little bit of it was because I was genuinely shocked to see that Chef Terry, whom they'd been referencing, was a woman. I looked it up, and only 6% of Michelin-starred chefs in the real world are women. So it was a very interesting choice, and what a person to cast. Honestly, the season had me hooked from the moment early in its first episode when Ayo Edebiri's Sydney asks longtime cook Tina if she wants culinary training to become a sous chef. The actress playing Tina, Liza Colon-Zayas, gives a smile that pierced me through the heart. It was just beautiful. I'm so glad that some of the side characters got a little bit more room to shine. There's a Copenhagen set episode directed by Rami Youssef and featuring cast member Lionel Boyce and guest star Will Poulter, which is also a wonderful digression. But in the Chicago setting of the rest of the season, there were so many unexpected directorial choices, camera angles, use of montage. It just really cemented how this show is so much more than a family or workplace drama. Oh, and Reservation Dogs is back now for its third season as well. I haven't seen any of the new episodes yet, but I cannot wait to. This show definitely upholds the aphorism that the more specific the storytelling is to a personal and cultural experience, the more universal it becomes. Another show that I think appeals to that sensibility, although maybe not quite as successfully as Reservation Dogs, is This Fool, starring and co-created by Chris Estrada, which recently came back for season 2. It's a pretty broad but dark comedy, and I think the first season actually felt a little more lived in than the sequel, which takes a lot of time trying to reformat. But this is a show where the performances win me over. Even though I think it's not a mistake that there's a lot of fucked up gender and social politics involved, everything from agency of women to the treatment of sex work, but in the hands of these actors, it feels very real to the characters portrayed. There's a 2-episode storyline about a convenience store robbery that's bookended with a montage to Randy Newman's I Love LA that had me in peals of laughter. That song either calls to mind the opening of a Dodger game or Kris Jenner's 30th birthday video tribute featuring O.J. Simpson. Please look it up. I'm not going to link that in the show notes. But in This Fool, they pair the song with scenery from South and East LA's working class neighborhoods, and it's the perfect tone for the show. So yeah, I saw an interview with Estrada where he was like, look, these aren't good guys in this show. I didn't want this to be Ted Lasso, but I think a lot of these characters think they're the good guys. So I think it's helpful to remember that when you're watching it. Finally, I returned to the theater after Oppenheimer on IMAX and 2 showings of Barbie for a film that combines nuclear waste and popular children's toys. The Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles return in Mutant Mayhem. I had really loved director Jeff Rowe's film, The Mitchells vs. the Machines, and I think he was a writer on Gravity Falls, which is absolutely one of my favorite cartoons ever. But if you'll excuse my lack of comic book bona fides, I really don't have a lot of, or any connection to the heroes in a half shell. So the fact that I found the movie totally charming is based on no real affinity for the characters or lore or anything like that. There could be turtle heads out there who were like, this movie ruined my childhood. I saw someone say that it talked down to them, and I truly am racking my brain trying to figure out what that means. I just thought it was a really sweet story. The kids' desire to have social lives was so sweet and lovely. And Jackie Chan voices their father. He is horrible to look at. Some of the character design in this is genuinely aesthetically distressing. There were a lot of animal mutants. I was like, I don't want to look at that. I don't want to see that. But Jackie Chan broke my heart. He has efforts to connect with these boys who are outgrowing his overprotection, and it leaves him all alone in this sewer at times. I was totally won over by the kind of quote unquote human story here. And I appreciated that Ayo Edebiri back as April O'Neil. She seemed to me more than a sidekick or a love interest. And that, I even had to ask someone, I was like, I don't know, is April O'Neil in the other properties? Does she have agency? Is she a person? And the fact that she was like a high school journalist, I thought put her on even playing field with the Turtles, but also like she was there for her own reasons, and that was cool. And then there were these really good fight scenes. They were obviously inspired by Godzilla and Daredevil and a lot of other sort of like Asian action movies where you have the horizontal pan following one of our heroes fighting off like a half dozen bad guys. They were really exhilarating. It was really well directed action scenes. So I totally enjoyed it. I'm curious if any of you have watched it, and if you're someone who has a love of the Ninja Turtles, or if you're like me, just kind of went into it and went along for the ride. So let me know what you think of that or any of these titles, or if there's anything that you're watching that I'm not and you think I should. Let me know on social with hashtag FemFreqRadio. And if you're a Patreon supporter, let's chat in the Feminist Frequency Discord. I'm wanting to make sure I'm more active there because what am I going to be doing? Tweeting? Maybe. We'll see. This has been your Fortnightly Freakout from me, Kat Spada. You can follow me wherever you can follow me at CatExMachina. Sorry, that's cat_EX_Machina. And Feminist Frequency is at FemFreak, also all over the place. Tune in next week for a full-length episode with FFR icon Ebony Adams. I'll see you then.